to another live stream. I'm joined by special guest Mufassil Islam. Mufassil, actually, I found out about him many years ago. He interviewed me, so this is quite an interesting spin. So at that time, he was ex-Muslim. He was an apostate, murtad, whatever you want to call it. And he called me on the phone. I was just like a new ex-Muslim. This was in 2015, I think, 2016. And he was asking me questions, and I was in my car answering the questions from my iPad, which was it was so different back then. And lo and behold, I found out about a year ago that Mufassil Islam has gone back to Islam. So that is quite a journey. And so I thought a mutual follower of Mufassil and mine sent me his video where he said he'd like to have a debate with ex-Muslim. So I asked him, let's not have a debate, let's have a conversation instead, because I don't really want to have a debate. I'd rather talk about your journey and all that, and we can talk about it, and I can ask questions and see whether I disagree and go from that perspective. So that's what it is now. We've gone the whole way. Mufassil, how's it going?
I'm fine. How's things with you, Sameer?
Good. No complaints. So let's start at the beginning. Do you want to talk about quickly why you left Islam in the first place, because you were born Muslim, and then how you found your way back to Islam now? And like, so basically what changed?
Praises be to Allah for bringing me back to the truth. I was wrong because the Islam I was brought up in is the Islam which is taught by overwhelming majority of Muslims to overwhelming majority of Muslims. So I fell into that trap as well, and I drifted away from the Islam my forefathers were preaching in the Indian subcontinent. So thankfully, I have gone back to the Islam, the real Islam that my forefathers were preaching in the Indian subcontinent. So that's how I would say rather Allah saved my soul.
So what about what do you think of the arguments that you were making before? As an ex-Muslim, do you think they're all invalid? Do you think there's some truth to them? What do you think?
It depends on how you look at it. The way I found the truth based on Quran, if you look at from the Quranic point of view and solely from the Quranic spirit, those arguments all were wrong. But if you take the bigger circle and you take the tafsir and all that into account, and how Islam is known to the Muslims today, then I was right.
So do you follow Sunni Islam?
I'm talking to you now, and you are an ex-Muslim. I am a Muslim.
Yeah.
So I think that should be a start to show that what real Islam can do.
Yeah. So can you tell me, are you a Sunni Muslim? Do you believe in the Sunnah, the Hadith corpus, or are you a different type of Muslim now, like a Quranist or something?
No. No. There's nothing as such as Quranist. But Islam is what Quran tells you.
But Quranist is someone that excludes the Sunnah, who rejects the Hadith.
That's also wrong. Sunnah of the Prophet, you can Abdullah Sameer, you can find the Sunnah within the scripture itself. So the Quran itself tells you which are the Sunnahs, and to find out which are the genuine Sunnahs that probably with 99% authenticity you will find from the hadiths, you can just simply take them into account by testing them against the Quranic verses, and that's how you find out. And out of, I would say, 30,000 plus hadiths, I would say mutawattir, or the acceptable hadiths, should be hardly 200 to 300. So that's how I look at the things. And I also take historiography into account, I take history into account, and then I weigh them verse by verse. And then I also, you can see all the graphs behind me.
What is that? What is that back there?
For example, I have noted, say here, all the verses relating to, say, jihad and justifiable. And I have taken up like persecution of ex-Muslims like you, how it's happening, why it is happening, from the Quranic view, from Hadith view, from where it happened, how it happened, and all that. So I'm doing it on a daily basis. That's how I'm doing it. So I've been doing it for many years now, as you probably know. So I have gone to the bottom of it and found the truth. That's
so do you so are you not dogmatic about Bukhari? So in Sunni Islam, there's almost a consensus that Bukhari and Muslim are the most reliable references that collect the wisdom and the sayings and the actions of Muhammad after the Quran. Do you agree with that?
Well, what the problem is the Shia and the Sunni division rather have caused a problem to find the truth. Whenever you want to take something from the Shia and you find that to be true, then if you follow that, then you will be called a Shia. But that's not true. That is, in fact, going back to the authenticity of the Quran. There are some things the Shias are absolutely right, and the Sunnis are absolutely wrong. For example, breaking of the fast, Surah 2, verse 187. The Sunnis are totally wrong. Overwhelming majority of them are wrong. The Shias are right. On the other hand, when it comes to other aspects, the Sunnis are right. But the criteria is this: soon after the death of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, the people who the Prophet fought against came into power. The Umayyads, they came into power. They obliterated the Ahlul Bayt, the people of the house, and also massacred the genuine Sahabas who fought for the freedom of the Muslims, to take them back to Mecca. And the history probably, the Battle of Hara, 683, where Yazid carried out massacre against genuine followers of the Prophet. And the very Medina, which was being defended by the greatest of the followers of Prophet Muhammad, were massacred by Yazid and Muawiyah's armies. And they were mostly Kalbi Christians, within bracket, new Muslims. And how can you justify that in Islam? It is absolutely disgusting. And also, they were the ones who instructed the collection of hadiths. And those who were genuine Sahabas, they started burning their collection of hadiths. And genuine scholars, I will give an example. Many critics of Islam, and probably you do as well, rely on Ibn Ishaq. How do you value? I will ask you a bit if I can.
Please,
Sameer.
yeah.
How do you value Ibn Ishaq? How do you value it from a critical point of view? How do you accept it? Yes,
So I haven't done a very thorough historical deep dive on Islam. I've only started researching from an academic perspective all of these things. So my perspective mainly comes from the Orthodox Sunni tradition, what is generally accepted among Sunni Muslims. What I found by reading Sean Anthony's book, Empire of Faith, and he's an academic that he's spending his life to kind of try to find out what was the real historic Muhammad, not what we find in the Hadith, which was 200 years later, not even what we find in the Seerah, but like what can we kind of figure out, what can we piece together, and what can we, based on non-Muslim sources, based on, little hints in the Seerah itself. Like, for example, he says that there's clear examples of Ibn Ishaq using biblical tropes in the Seerah. For example, the whole story of Bahira, the monk, and how there was a cloud following Muhammad. And then
he was reading Gospel of John.
Sorry?
Gospel of John. Ibn Ishaq found that to be reliable. Gospel of John.
Not that he found the Apostle of John. No, what he's saying is, what Sean Anthony is saying is, the Seerah itself is manufactured to portray an image of Muhammad that the scholars wanted him to be. For example, one of the big things about the thing is, we have to remember, if we're going to talk about historical Muhammad, it's a much more difficult discussion than talking about what the Muhammad of the Sunni or Shias is, because they're
I brought up this issue as an example. For example, I'm sorry to cut you up there.
Go ahead.
Ibn Ishaq, I'll just go to the point. Ibn Ishaq was sponsored for writing his book, the Siratul Rasulullah, by Al-Mansur, the Caliph. But this very Caliph, Al-Mansur, didn't get the obedience from Imam Abu Hanifa, the greatest Islamic jurist of all time. And Imam Abu Hanifa was persecuted, he was put behind bars, and he was poisoned to death by this very Al-Mansur. And many Christian scholarism were translated and spread out. And this also happened by Harun al-Rashid, who is the most celebrated caliph probably until the 9th century, who took Barmakid monks into his quarters, and they were the one who put him into power. And there are several examples as such who, in fact, made efforts to collect various rituals, various cultural aspects, and conflate them into a book, and then turn them into a Muslim asylum collection of hadiths. So I have read the historical analysis of hadith collections. They talk about sanad. They always boast about memory. I'm a man. I'm sorry, I don't know how it will sound. I'm a man with 175 IQ, and I still find it extremely difficult even to rely. How do you do that? Because as someone with law degrees, a good lawyer knows where the law is. He doesn't have to memorize the law.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
So when I was, in fact, reading all this hadith collection history from Muslim and non-Muslim scholarism, I found out that the number of hadiths were blustering every 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. You know?
Yeah.
So these hadiths are all, in fact, 99% of all of them are absolutely junk. For example, promised Messiah is a Christian concept.
Uh-huh.
Antichrist is a Christian concept. It's known as Dajjal. And again, circumcision is against Quran, totally against Quran. It is a Christian concept, Judeo-Christian concept. And then I can go on, and a second coming of Christ is a Christian concept. You can find in Quran. So all there, the things I dislike and I find funny and barbaric, even everything that you quote from Hadith Sirah, these are all something to do with anything else, but nothing to do with the central message.
So this is this I agree with you in a sense, because I do think that the genuine, the academic consensus for the most part is that hadith are on the whole unreliable, and there is some truth. There probably is some truth in some of them, and to piece together the true ones is very difficult, because what do we have? But the problem is with the Quran by itself, a lot of the things in the Quran make no sense without the seerah, and that has been the challenge for academics. For example, like when it talks about the Battle of Badr, and it says we made you sleepy, and we showed you this and that. Like without the seerah, how do you know what it's talking about? What happened? What battle? What sleepiness? What angels? You know?
Is irrelevant, because the Quran has also something which was prevalent during the time of the Prophet and onwards. If you read some of the poetries of that time, you can see that they were never going for numbers. They were not going for specifics. It is not the Arabic culture as well, because I've read many of the poetries of that time. And I can tell you that the main purpose was to inspire, because the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said it very clearly that all the prophets are given, this is one of the mutawatir, I believe, from Bukhari, that all the prophets are given miracles, but I have been given the inspiration, and so that I can expect my numbers of followers will outnumber all of the prophets. So Quran is a spiritual guide. It's a spiritual enlightenment. You don't have to know the tiny details of all that. So every verse that I have taken, I can understand Quran also by timeline order from mysterious aspect. And I have read all that. But every word of the Quran makes perfect sense. I'm not aware of any verse.
Okay, can I challenge you on that?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so let's talk about the rule in the Quran that you can marry your adopted son's ex-wife, and that this whole thing was made, this rule was made clear so that Muslims will know there's no burden on them if they want to marry their adopted son's ex-wife, and then because of this, the whole thing was made haram about about adoption, giving them your name. Why is it bad to give your adopted son your name? Like, what's a big deal?
Aspect, in fact, as I said, first of all, I said you have to analyze from historical point, and I'm not against judging into historiography. Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, when he came, as we know very well, that Quran came in gradual order so that the strength, the iman, the faith can be strengthened. So if you take the history into account, Prophet Muhammad did many things at the inception of his life, and it slowly changed, and gradually at Surah 5 verse 3 says that Allah made it perfect. Allah perfected his deen. That means before that, until that, you can say that was not perfect. It was heading towards perfection. Surah Doha specifically tells Muhammad, and in many other hadiths, for example, many other Quranic verses even, Surah Doha, in Quranic verse, Allah reminds the Prophet that you are a helpless orphan, and you should help the orphans as well. So when it comes to orphans, Quran keeps on. I can give you verses after verses, Surah 2 verse 145, blah blah blah, I can go on. But loving orphans is mandatory in Islam according to Quran. That's number one. Secondly, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was not bound by any law until the Quran, the verse came, and he obviously changed. The purpose of law is to forbid, not to allow, because there's no verse in the Quran to allow you to breathe, because that's not how law works. There was a common understanding that when someone was found and he was given and raised as someone's son, by giving the name of the father, for example, Ibn, so and so. So these are the names, denies them of their biological lineage, biological identity. And this is a fundamental human right recognized by many of the lands today. For example, Australia changed their laws to allow the kids, the foster kids, to find adopted kids, to know two things. First of all, they were not biologically the children of the parents they perceived to be. And secondly, they have the right to know who their biological parents were. Because until for many years, you can just have a 2-line in the adoption paper, I love you, and so, and that's all. But you don't know who their biological parents are. So this notion had to be broken, first of all. And that's one. Second point. Third point, Muhammad had adopted his son, Zaid, when he was not a prophet, that was outside Kaaba, declared himself as the son, and because he didn't want to leave his side. There are many ways to do that. So, and also, if you remember that Zainab, the wife of Zaid, Zainab didn't want to marry. The very surah, the very verse that you're talking about, probably you're talking about Surah 33, verse 33 onwards. So this, the Zainab, radiallahu ta'ala anha, she categorically didn't want to marry Zaid, because Zaid was someone of the perceived lower caste, because he was a slave initially. So that had to be broken. The Prophet Muhammad obliterated class action by that. So he did two things in one go. So it was an amazing thing, and it was epoch making, and I'm full support of it, because he cannot be bound by laws or any promise or anything until he became the prophet.
But don't you think that it's a very strange thing to include in the very last and final revelation? Do you know anyone yourself that marries the adopted son's ex-wife?
No. First of all, if the law is already here, and I am obviously not into that thing, that I will marry someone who is adopted by me. But at the same time, don't forget that adoption, you have to be very careful that you do not deny of someone who is the biological parents. That's the other thing. And I don't know, because I have to value many things into culture as well. There is nothing in Quran which tells you cannot value your culture. 25% of global population are married into their cousins. So marrying cousin is not against Islam, but marrying cousin, because cousins are considered to be family in many ways, in many lands, so they don't marry cousins.
Yeah.
So there's no problem in taking your culture into account. There's no problem at all.
So just to bring up the verse in the screen, it says, and remember when you said to the one on whom Allah bestowed favor and you bestowed favor, meaning Zayd, keep your wife in fear of Allah while you concealed within yourself that which Allah is to disclose, and you fear the people while Allah has more right to fear him. And then when Zayd no longer had any need for her, we married her to you in order that there not be upon the believers any discomfort concerning the wives of the adopted sons when they no longer have need of them. So if I can just reflect on this a little bit, and then I'll let you respond. I see a lot of problems with this ayah. I see a lot of problems. Well, the first thing is, some people say that what he was hiding was his love for Zainab or his desire for Zainab. Let's not go there. We don't know that for sure. There's no proof for that. But there is. So whether or not he was having desire for Zainab or whatever, the thing is, this was a taboo in the culture. The taboo in the culture was your adopted son is treated like a real son.
Right.
Now, why is that a bad thing to treat your adopted son like a real son?
It's not a question of treating. It's a question of recognizing legally.
True,
So
true. But in some cases, if you're adopting someone, you don't even know who the real father is because you're adopting them. The orphans, they have no parents. So there is no lineage. You're giving them your lineage. You're actually benefiting them. Like I wrote on my blog that there was an example of Julius Caesar and Cleopatra who had a son. This is a famous example.
mhm,
And the adopted son, who we all know as Caesar Augustus, is the first emperor of the Roman Empire.
I know the story.
And the natural son,
Yes.
the natural son, we don't even know him. So
No,
it's like
there's no
it's
problem.
what
Quran is not against that. What I'm trying to say is Quran is not against any particular culture taking anything as such. But what Quran is against is treating them, is not depriving them of their biological parentage. And to say that Prophet Muhammad was bound by a particular culture was wrong. And also his love was there. Let's perceive it that Muhammad had some sort of love for Zainab, even if for that. But the question remains, what is totally ignored, whether Zainab ever loved Zayd. That's the other thing, because the history proves very clearly that
Yeah.
Zainab against loving or even marrying Ziyad.
I would agree with you there that he didn't want to marry her and Muhammad told her
Never-
to marry him.
We have to be fair and neutral to the history. So she was never happy with him. And not only that, Zainab lived a very happy life ever since. And she was very proud of the fact that the Quran even refers to that. And it also, this very verse also tells you, Muhammad was very not comfortable going against the prevalent culture. And he was trying to subdue his attraction for Zainab. So I don't see anything wrong in that verse at all. Rather, it establishes the right of biological children to find out who their biological parents were and not to deny them of that.
When you deny them the right to a family name and you also deny them the right to inheritance under Islamic law, you cannot I don't know if you would agree with this, but under Islamic law the inheritance is fixed in the Quran and adopted children is not listed.
No, you're wrong there. No, because first of all, when it comes to inheritance, I have some academic degrees on it. When it comes to inheritance, there are some Quranic sharers and non-Quranic sharers. All right. So the son, for example, is not considered a Quranic sharer.
A son?
The son is not Quranic sharer in Islamic jurisprudence. He's the residuous. That means he gets the rest. The
Adopted son, you mean?
No, any son in Islamic jurisprudence is considered a residuous. That means he gets the rest.
Okay.
But the Quran specifically mentions the daughters, so the daughters are considered the Quranic sharers. And then also there is something called hiba.
But it says right here in the Quran, for the male, what is equal of two females? How is that not?
This is considered in Islamic jurisprudence. I think whether if you have any expert in Islamic jurisprudence, his sons are considered the residuers. Why? Because they get everything else.
But it says right here, double what the females get. How is that residual? That's not residual. If it was residual, then it would be not listed.
I'll tell you how. For example, you have no children. Only one daughter. You have no son. You have no daughters. Right? You have sons. Right? The daughter doesn't get the full share. They have to go into a full details lecture on that. But what I'm trying to make the point is to solve the issue of adopted son. There's nothing in the Quran to say that you cannot do hiba. It is called hiba bil liwaz. You can give your adopted son everything that you want by doing a hiba. Hiba is a gift.
Okay.
So hiba bil liwaz, you can do a hiba or gift to your adopted son. There's nothing wrong in it. And it has happened throughout Islamic history that hiba has been done to the people they loved. So even not only that, a son, for example, a daughter is particularly in need of some extra things.
Mm-hmm.
A father can give a particular hiba or gift to that other daughter in crisis. So there's nothing wrong with it.
Okay. But the thing is, don't you feel like this creates a problem? Because what it's done is it's put into stone some laws that really should be flexible based on the different cultures that you live in. For example, in today's culture, especially when you have women and men working, but even if you don't, let's say, for example, we come up with a situation where, like you said, your daughter is in need more than your son. Your son is wealthy, he's a businessman, he has a business of laundromats or whatever, he's a millionaire. Your daughter, she has 3 kids, she's divorced, and
Somebody shipping tackle. The laundromat probably will not make him a middleman.
so whatever the case is, let's say, for example, your daughter's in need. Now, according to the Quran, the son would get double the share of the daughter, and Muslim scholars will say, "Yeah, but it's the man's responsibility to take care of his sister, his mother, his daughter." But my question is, why not just give her an equal share and let her do what she wants with the money? Why make her beg the men in her life? Why give the power? Because this creates a systemic problem that by definition she's getting half of what her brother is going to get. Like, I have
Yes.
four boys and one girl. Why should she get half of what the boys share? You know what I'm saying? Like, what she should get the same.
I understand what you say. First of all, there's a big problem, Sameer, from if you take the whole world into account. You don't forget that 80% of world wealth is confined within a handful of people. That's first thing. And secondly, we are coming, both of us, we have our forefathers coming from certain parts of the world where oppression is there, where women are suffering, and also when women are being chucked away for many things. I'm sorry to say that, bringing those terms. So there needs to be a sort of security. What Islam has done, Islam has given two options. First of all, if you're in a culture, for example, somebody who is born in America, where the daughter is working and daughter is as good as taking care of the family and also taking care of the outside earning sources. The same thing is happening to, say, the sons. They're doing the same thing. Islam always considers wife to be the primary homemaker. That's what Islamic stand is. And father to be the primary earner. Because if the father is, even in the Western law, the primary carer is the mother. So I'm not the primary carer. I'm not the primary earner. There's some sort of negligence towards me. That's what how I believe it. But that's nothing to disrespect for the woman. I'm just saying it. But if you want to, if you see that your daughter needs something, you just balance it out. You can give this as gift. But if you make it as a law, what happens is, example, somebody born in Bangladesh, the daughter, Islam says, when a daughter gets the father's property, she goes to his, say, her husband's house. The husband must never ask for her father's property to be spent in the family. She can even throw that property away, even if he is in dire need to run the family. That's the Islamic point. Secondly, she also can claim mahrana. That then mahr, and she can claim that money and keep it as a security. That means she can demand whatever money she wants. Not the father will fix it. The daughter can say, I want this money. And if that is another thing, those are the financial security for both, from both sides. And the husband, under no circumstances, even if the wife spends some money from her savings, that will be debt in Islamic jurisprudence. So that's one thing, that money is frozen there. She can spend it, she can invest it, she can do whatever that she wants. But the same doesn't apply for the husband. That is the poorer side of the world I'm talking to you about. So that gives a sense of security for the woman. But on the other hand, if you're talking about the Western country, there's nothing wrong. You can, as I said, from the Islam is not against culture, because Imam Abu Hanifa made it very clear in his jurisprudence. That's why it is the biggest Islamic jurisprudence, that you can take into culture into account, and you can take the certain perspective into account, and you can just simply give it the rest as a hiba to your daughter. There's no problem at all. There's nothing wrong with it at all. You can hiba it, and you can just balance it out if you want. So
the hiba is 1/3 of your wealth maximum, correct? Is that what you're talking about? Like,
yes, I mean, if you have a daughter, if you take 1/3, that should be enough. If you have other boys, to give up probably more than that you can.
Yeah. And you can use this. That's true. You can use a 1/3 discretionary amount in Islamic law to give to either your adopted son, but by default, the adopted son would not get anything.
By default, that how is it not getting?
Because he's not the son. You cannot even, let's say you adopted a son. Your wife cannot even be alone with that man. Your wife cannot be alone with your adopted son because he's adopted. I have a family member, and I'm not gonna, obviously I can't say who it is, but let me just finish my story.
I don't know where it's coming from. I don't know where it is coming from that you cannot be with your son. I don't understand.
Okay, so the rule of mahram, where you cannot be alone with someone that is unrelated to you. So, for example, my female cousins in Islam, I am not allowed to be alone with them because shaitan will be the third person and I may have lustful desire for my cousins. The same thing with, for example, any unrelated woman, a co-worker, a waitress, I don't know, whatever. The point is, you in Islamic law, you have to maintain this hijab, this boundary between unrelated men and women.
Coming from?
This is Islamic jurisprudence.
Surah Al-Azab. You're talking about Surah Azab 33.
Surah Azab 33.
Yes, I mean Surah. If you open Surah Azab, there's chapter 33, and if you read on, you will see they're talking about this thing, Maharam. You're talking about. You read it. I don't have the Quran in front of me, but I can tell you.
So it's actually, I think,
specifically for the Prophet's wife, and it is said that you are not like other women. So this particular instruction was for the celebrated wife of the Prophet, for particular circumstances. It's not. This is the problem. When it comes to hadith, they try to interpret it in certain ways that confines women, Muslim women, into houses. This is not Islamic. This is not Quranic at all. So that's what I'm against. This is Islamic jurisprudence. They have pushed it into certain corners. This is not Quranic at all. So as I said from the beginning, you have to test it against the Quran. And
so the problem with that is, if you're doing that where you're challenging against the Quran, okay, hold on a second. So let me put it a different way. According to early Sunni Muslims, they used to see the Quran, the Hadith, as explaining the Quran. Do you not agree with that?
How early do you wanna go?
Right?
How early do you wanna go?
I'm saying, for example, the Sunni giant, the scholars of Hadith, they used to see the Sunnah as explaining.
I mean, give me names.
Okay, so I'm gonna have to look that up because I don't have it handy here.
I will tell you. I'll tell you from.
Okay, go ahead. Yeah.
Munabe, the earliest known hadith collection. Munabe, Shabad of Munabe. Those Munabe brothers were the earliest collectors of hadith, right? And though they were the students of Abu Hanifa. If you read the background of Munabe, you can Google your search. Munabe, they were the earliest hadith collections. These two brothers, they were the students of Abu Hanifa. Their forefathers were of the Zoroastrian Judeo background, and their collections reflect many names, many stories of from the Bible, and they were included in Ahmad ibn Hanbal's hadith collection. So these are the earliest that you can go. But if you go on hadith collections, Imam Bukhari was born in 810, and he compiled his Bukhari 842. So these are not correct either. So the information that you are giving cannot be verified from history.
I found it. So okay, let me just share my screen so you can see what I'm saying. Hold on one second. So the reference I'm quoting from is from the book by Jonathan Brown, which is called Misquoting Muhammad, the Challenge and Choices of Interpreting the Prophet's Legacy. So he quoted that Shah Waliullah explained that early Sunnis held that the Sunnah rules over the Book of God. The Book of God does not rule over the Sunnah. The Quran and Sunnah function in tandem like a locked door without a key. The Quran cannot be accessed without the Sunnah. And, even if you look at, and then for early Sunnis, there could be no contradiction between a Hadith and the Quran, the two halves of the same revelation. The Hadiths were just explicating the true meaning of the book. So this is from Jonathan Brown's book, and he's obviously an academic.
I have the Jonathan Brown's book in my mobile.
Yeah. So what do you think about that? Because if you don't have the Hadith, when the Quran says, for example, about Jummah prayer and stop doing all these things, and the Hadith explains it. Without the Hadith, you don't know how to do Jummah.
I'll come to that.
Okay.
First of all, Shah Waliullah is a misunderstood character. I'm not very fond of Shah Waliullah, but as far as misquoting the Prophet, I have this book. For some reason, this mobile is betraying me, but I will open it for you. Probably you can see the bar. The bar is saying it. The book that you were talking about is here. But anyway, I will tell you this. First of all, Sameer, when it comes to Hadith collection, I told you when the Hadith collection began.
Yes.
And I told you when it was compiled. So the relying of Hadith, what is the definition? What is the meaning of the word Hadith? What is it? Yes, my brother.
It's a transmission, right?
That one reminded me the name. Yes, Satibi Abu Nabi. Now the thing is, when it comes to Hadith collections, The history is problematic. I'm not against hadith. The hadith means you and I, Sameer, you and I are talking. This is hadith. You and I, we are talking. This is hadith. But then it transpired into something else. It's transpired into, say, for example, what do you call it, Kauli, Faili, Takridi, or all that terms. Now when it comes to Kauli, Faili, Takridi, the deeds of the Prophet also became a part of the hadith, but there also came Sunnah. But when it comes to Sunnah, as I told you, the Sunnah you can find even in the Quran, but the Sunnah, even there are Sunnah of Allah in the Quran. So it depends how you perceive it, and when it comes to following the hadiths of the Prophet, as you know, Bukhari also, surprisingly, Bukhari still has that hadith where it said, Prophet Muhammad said, to write down from me nothing but the Quran. So during the times of the Prophet, the hadiths were not collected, but not even written down, because they didn't want to be any confusion there. Now, it went on into collecting hadiths for whatever reason. The main purpose was to mislead the Muslims into a certain way which were not Islamic, for the purpose of ruling the region, nothing else. So the Umayyads and all those caliphs confined, as I told you from the beginning, conflated into rituals, Muslim Masail, translated jihad into a movement, a warfare, so that they could land grab. They could justify Constantinople and all that nonsense. But this is not Islamic. So following hadiths, if you want to put it that way, they were trying to genuinely follow some of the sayings of the Prophet. As I told you, mutawatir, I have no problem with that.
So when you say mutawatir, are you saying just because if it has multiple? So can you explain what mutawatir is?
What means it is verified. Sorry, I'm having some water.
Okay, no problem. So I'll explain. Mutawatir means that it's multiple chains of narration. So basically, multiple people said that it happened. So are you saying that because multiple people said it happened, it must be true?
There are only one, but there are other hadiths which are called nasikh hadiths, which is like from 3 different areas. But that's not only that. That is not only the criteria, according to me. The other criteria is to test them against the Quran. If they don't survive against the Quran, then I'm not accepting it. But I would love to answer your question where you were suggesting how I'm going to pray Jummah prayer, how I'm going to pray this.
Yes.
Okay, here is a challenge for you. Say Qibla means direction. Probably you know that. Qibla means direction, nothing else. In Islam, you were a Muslim, Abdullah, you tell me what you know about Qibla for Muslims.
What do I know? It's the direction of prayer that you face.
Yeah,
the Kaaba. Where's the Kaaba?
Where's the Kaaba? You're settled about that.
It changed at one point from the Masjid al-Aqsa to Masjid al-Haram.
So what is it? What was the direction? What was the direction for Muslim?
What do you mean? What was it?
Kaaba, right? You said the Kaaba.
Yeah.
Right? Is there anything in the Quran, in the entire Quran, to say, tell the Muslims, turn your face to the Kaaba? You're talking about Surah 2, verse 142, 145, if I'm not mistaken. Surah 2, verse 142, 145, that's what you're referring to. Because the word Qibla comes 7 times in the Quran, in 5 different verses. And Surah 42 to Surah 45, that's at the time when Masjid al-Quba, the directions turned. Is that the book that you're talking about, by the way? Is that the book you're talking about?
Sorry, I was muted. Yes, that's a book. Yeah.
That's the book. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Right.
It's a wonderful book. I actually like it. Yeah. So here's yeah.
Yeah. If you go on, you have opened Quran.com. Am I correct?
Yeah.
Right. Okay. If you see 142, 145, it is. Hold on there. Hold on right there. 144. Stay on 144. Stay on 144. Huh?
Yeah.
There it says, if you read it, we have certainly seen the turning of your face, right? Who is it talking to? Within bracket, Muhammad, obviously it's obvious because it came to Muhammad, toward the heaven, right? That is sky. And we will surely turn you to Qibla, right? With which you will be pleased. Here is the word. Qibla. That means Allah is telling Muhammad that you will be pleased. That means he was asking for a Qibla his heart would please. Am I right? Right. So goes on to say, so turn your face toward Masjid al-Haram. It doesn't say Kaaba, does it?
No, but that's what the Kaaba is, Masjid al-Haram.
No, Kaaba is in the middle. The Masjid al-Haram is around the area.
Okay.
And now Muhammad's house was adjacent to Masjid al-Haram.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So Muhammad was asking for home, because it goes on to say in 445 that it also says, if you read, Sameer, is it tea or having, or coffee?
Coffee.
Oh man, I hate coffee, man. I love your Tim Hortons though. Right. Anyway, so if you go on 146, it says, and if you brought to those who were blah blah blah. Anyway, 140. Let's skip 145. Let's go for 115, 115 of the same surah. 115, 115.
Yeah, I had a feeling you were going to bring this up.
It says that, and to Allah belongs the east and the west. So whatever you might turn, there is face of Allah. Now you go for 117, 177. Go for 177 for your viewers. 177. Okay, that is said, righteousness is not that you turn your faces towards the east or the west. That Allah is saying it doesn't really matter. It's just to find out who is following the Prophet, because some of them were considered to be probably bracket munafiqs. That means they're not really Muslims.
Yeah.
Whether they really go away and move away as the Prophet. That's to establish. So
yep.
Let me finish, Rami. So how will you pray? So if you say that Muslims are instructed to bow their head 5 times a day, go up and down, and then pray, right, 5 times a day towards the Kaaba, is absolutely against Quran. So there's nothing against Quran in there.
The thing is, you could argue a lot of things in the Sunnah go against the Quran, but like Muhammad was the one who was doing those things.
I'm just no. Hang on, no. The Quran says very completely, and I must make it clear, I must not be misquoted, that if somebody prays this way, I have no problem. Because salah, the word salah, that is prayer, means to remember Allah. That's something else we should remember. So the Quran says very clearly in several verses, I can quote you verses after verses, where it says the Quran is complete, so it doesn't need any other hadiths and all that. So if you want to bring hadith, anything in any form, and if somebody tells me, Mufassil, I want to pray up and down 5 times and do this, and do the ruku. Also, it's up to you. I have no problem with it. If you remember the verses, if you do that, I will not say this is haram or not allowed. Or even somebody says, I want to do the wazifa, do the counting beads of Allah and remember Allah.
So aren't you going against the consensus of the scholars that we have to face the Qibla? I mean, all the mosques are facing the Qibla. Are you saying it's...
So what? I'm an Islamic jurist myself. I am a scholar myself. I can demand. I've written several books, So I'm just telling you, I will stick to the Quran and accept the hadiths which do not go against the Quran. The Quran itself, the Quran says Allah will judge me by the Quran. And Sameer, if I may ask you, you, for example, are you an atheist, agnostic, deist, or what are you?
I'm an agnostic atheist.
Agnostic atheist. Here's the thing. If someone comes to me and tells me what is the central message of the Quran, what is the central message that Allah wants to establish? Allah establish oneness of Allah, because that's natural. That's what I think. Because there's a verse of covenant, Allah says, Rabbikum, I'm not to your Lord. And we said, yes, you are. So there's a natural aspect. Apart from everything else is not part of the Tawheed. You can be, for example, a violator, you can be disobedient but not doing something. But that will not take you out of the fold of Muslim. To be a Muslim, according to what I understood from Quran A to Z, word for word, I researched from historiography and everything, that you have to believe in oneness of Allah. The rest, if you don't follow, you can go, you can be punished. For example, Surah 2, verse 62 makes it very clear. Even the Christians, there are believers among them, and they believe in hereafter. Even not believing in Muhammad will not take them out of the definition of mu'min. So, if you tell me that the Quran denies even a Christian who says, I believe in Jesus and I believe in God, I don't believe in I don't associate anyone, and my sense of Jesus being the Son of God means he is probably not in the sense of biological child. We are all children of God. I would say, according to Islam, you are a Muslim.
But the thing is, the Quran actually does say that Allah does not forgive association with Him, but He forgives what is less than that.
I told you, if you rewind it, I said if you do not associate anything, but
that's
if,
what Christianity is. Christianity is worshiping Jesus as God.
no, it's not.
Okay, what is Christianity then?
Some Christian concepts. There are several concepts in Christianity who view the Trinity in different ways. For example, Jehovah's Witnesses, they view Jesus in a certain manner. There were also Nestorian Christians, the earliest Eastern Church, that viewed it differently. But my understanding, bottom line is this. Here's the text. If someone says, I have a belief in one God, right? I believe in one God. And I would say, that makes you a Muslim. Clearly, because there's nothing in the Quran says to be a Muslim, you have to believe in Allah, you have to believe in Muhammad, you have to believe in this. But if you don't, you'll be disobedient. You may be punished, but you will not be going out of the fold of Muslim.
I'm going to share the most famous verse that's quoted in the Bible. For God so loved the world that he gave his one and only son, that whoever believes in him shall not perish but have eternal life. Christianity is a religion that, depending on, like, the mainstream Christianity believes that Jesus is either the Son of God or he's God. He's part of the Trinity. This is mainstream Christianity.
The Holy Ghost and the Son. I'll tell you this. This very verse, John 3, verse 16, King James Version, if you Google it, for your viewers as well, it says, King James Version, if the older prints, if you see, you will say the begotten word is there. Go ahead and show your friends here. Begotten word is there.
Sorry?
Begotten. Begotten son is there. Can you show your friends?
What do you want me to show them on?
King James Version.
King James Version. Okay.
If you can.
Sure. Yeah. I found it. Yeah.
Old ones, right? You see the begotten word there?
Yes.
So you see how I studied my Bible. So I would say this begotten word was taken out in other versions because this is not the sense that, in fact, the true Christianity was trying to go back to. Because the people of the earliest Christians were known as the people of the way. So the people of the way really didn't believe in, like, the Jewish, the Greek mythological understanding of Hercules thing, that God coming and he's having sex with a woman and then giving birth to children, and those were the aspects that many earliest probably believers were following. I don't know, but here Jesus is understood to be a different type of a very loved son, different type of son, but close to God. It's not that he's another God, but if a Christian believes that he is God in the sense that he's the Father, then I have problem with that. But if he's not, I've been Christians all my life.
I'm more interested in what the Quran says, which is that it condemns it in no uncertain language that this is not just a wrong belief, but they will be punished.
I knew that you would bring up Maida. So Maida is this. Allah is referring to, there's another conception of Trinity. You'll find Isis, the Egyptian god Isis. If you show your Trinity in Isis, you go ahead and Google them. Your friends will know. Isis. You will see in the Isis there is Trinity as well. So there were some prevalent conceptions that Christians were viewing that way, but at the same time, you see two words bear the same meaning, different words, which is Ab and Rab. Ab and Rab. Rab is the cherisher, nourisher, evolver. The same is Father in the concept of theology, cherisher, nourisher, evolver. So if the cherisher, nourisher, evolver sense, Allah is not against it. But if he's saying that in the sense of biological father, or he's associated with God as God, then Islam has a problem. So that's the reference that Quran was making in 573.
That's what Christianity is.
No, it's not. That's
what Christianity is. Maybe to some strange sect that's not the case, but the majority of Christians believe that Jesus is the Son of God and he is actually God.
What I have to tell you is this, Sameer, is there are Christians who view the way you are viewing. There are Christians who do not view the way you are viewing. Jehovah's Witness is one of them.
Yeah, but the minority, right?
I am dealing with it. But there are also Christians, overwhelming number of Christians that I come across every day, and they're saying this: I love Jesus, right? He's my savior, in the sense that he's the whatever way you want to say savior, because Jesus says, "I am the way." I have no problem with that as a Muslim, because his time, obviously, he's still our prophet. So if Jesus was the way, I have no problem with that. But if he says that he's the son in the sense like Trinity in the Isis sense of the Egyptian goddess, I have a problem with that. But if he says Father and Jesus are different, but he's God in the sense that he doesn't have a person of himself, there was a huge problem with Christian history. So I do not have any problem if you do not put Father and the Son in the God's pedestal. That's what I have problem.
My issue with Muslims that try to reinterpret Christianity, I have a big problem with this because I feel like the straw man in Christianity. I feel like you're making up a Christianity that suits you, not actually looking at what the Bible says.
I'm not making. I'm just telling you. I'm even giving the names of the group to them.
But I mean, it's nice that you believe that.
The Jehovah's Witness. You bring up any Jehovah's Witness here. The understanding of his Jesus will not take him out of the fold of Islam. That's my understanding. Okay, very clearly. There are also many Christians who view it differently, and they find it difficult even for them to explain this. Forget about Muslims explaining it to them. So I have no problem with that. If they do not believe in three gods, I have no problem with that. But if you say there are Christians who believe in three gods, I would say, well, you tell me.
So I don't know about Jehovah's Witnesses, but it says right here that they believe Jesus is God's only begotten Son, and his life began in heaven, but is believed to be a separate entity and not part of the Trinity.
There you go. So then again, there are verses in the Bible you will find that before Abraham I was and all that.
Yeah. So anyways, I think that's kind of a side.
Long. We'll never end this. Let's move on.
Yeah. So going back to the main topic, you don't feel like the stories in the Quran, they're just myths, they're just fables, they're just stories. I mean, why should we believe that, there was a guy that healed the dead and brought them back to life, and Abraham had these clay birds, and then, all of these miracles from Allah, but now suddenly Allah is silent, he doesn't respond, he doesn't do anything, he doesn't talk to anyone. It's almost like he doesn't exist.
He does talk. He does talk to me. But I'll tell
he talks to you?
He does talk to me. I'll tell you this. Now you can tell me, how does he talk to you? He talks in your heart. You can feel it. Because the feeling I cannot pass. That's the thing. How you feel, how subconscious mind works is still scientists are working on. But there is this thing, Sameer. For example, I'll give you two arguments. First of all, there's not a single verse in the Quran where it says, look, Muhammad performed this miracle, now believe it. Can you find me a single verse in the Quran, entire Quran?
Well, it talked about splitting the moon.
It doesn't. If you open Surah Isra, you're talking about. If I'm not wrong, if you open Surah Isra, verse 1, open it.
Yeah, it talks about the moon has been split, right? Yeah. Surah Isra. Hold on. It says what number? Hold on. It's number chapter 17, right? Okay, I found it. Yeah. Hold on.
If I'm not wrong.
Yeah, I found it. Yeah. Okay.
Right, Surah Al-Isra, you found it. Now read Surah 17, verse 1.
Exalted is he who brought his servant from Masjid al-Haram to Masjid al-Aqsa to show him off his signs.
Yeah, go on. No, go on.
We may give Moses the scripture, and it goes into Moses and Noah and all that stuff.
Yes, and if you read all this is not clear that especially, first of all, how it was done, how it was taken.
No, it doesn't.
Does it? So this is again not clear. And the Quran says, when you're referring to splitting of the moon, it said the moon has been split. It doesn't say that Muhammad is split.
Yeah, that's true. That's why the hadith comes in to explain it, right?
I'm telling you.
So do you deny that there was a big fitna when this happened, that the disbelievers all got upset and laughed at Muhammad and said, haha, you said you went to Masjid al-Haram in one night, Masjid al-Aqsa, and how did he do this? And then they went to Abu Bakr, and Abu Bakr said, I believe him if he said this, because you don't believe any of this story?
I didn't deny that. What I'm saying is, how this journey took place. For example, you asked me, do you talk to Muhammad? God, I said, God talks to me in my
heart. Went on the Burak, the flying horse animal.
Because I'm basing myself on Quran. The rest is you can either view it as a spiritual sense, you can view it as a story, you can view it as a history, up to you. It's open for argument. But what I'm saying, that to tell a Muslim that he has to, according to Quran, he has to accept it word for word is wrong. Because the very story, you are talking about Borak, you mentioned just Borak.
Yeah.
If you see Arda, I don't know, do you know the story of Arda Viraz?
No.
Okay, Google it. Arda Viraz. Arda Viraz is a story of the Zoroastrian story of Arda Viraz.
Oh, okay.
The Arda Viraz has, uncanny similarity with this Miraz thing. You know.
So you think it's fabricated?
Well, a lot of it, yes.
So,
Because, but what is not fabricated? Probably the spiritual journey. I have no problem.
Okay. So, but this story of Noah is also very, very similar to the story.
Now we are coming to something else. We are coming. We have now gotten out of the Muhammad ambit. So let's go for other miraculous stories.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's put it this way, Sameer. What is miracle? Miracle is something probably I cannot prove. Am I correct?
So what I was going to say was Gilgamesh story. That's what the name I was just coming to mind. Yeah, you can't prove it. Yeah.
You can prove it. So basically, the thing is, if you, for argument's sake, let's put it this way, for argument's sake, you and I are talking here, a few hundred people are here, right? What we are doing, we experience something miracle, that means we can't explain, right?
Yeah. Yes.
I started lifting myself, you know. Say, even if it is scientifically not explainable or subject to be proven, and it is not beyond scientific proof, a flying saucer comes right now, right, and turns me green and then turns me back to my color. let's put it this way. I become ET for a second. So I become ET, and then I come back to Mufassil. Now, if it ever, let's put this argument sake, if it ever happens, those who did not have a first-hand experience will always doubt it as to be fabricated, false, lie. You can never prove a miracle beyond the time. So that's why Muhammad never asked Muslims to be a believer basing on miracle, because even Jesus said, that we're talking about Bible, Jesus says, you superstitious, credulous people, you only look for miracles. So I will tell you this, that miracle is not the demand that Allah wants us to believe to be based on.
But why did he do that in the past then? Why did he do that for Jesus and all of these other people? He did all these miracles. But you're saying for Muhammad, he did no miracles? I mean, how would we distinguish a real truth teller that claims to be a prophet of God? What if I told you I'm a prophet of God? What would it take for you to believe me? Allah spoke to me and told you, you have to obey me, Mufassil. Why should you accept my words at truth value if I don't have any proof?
All you need to do is come up with a book which will inspire me to think the way I'm thinking, which is making me love you, even if you're an ex-Muslim.
So Shakespeare, if I'm Shakespeare, you'll believe I spoke to Allah because my book is amazing?
No, because the Quran gives an appeal, which appealed to me, because I'm a very studious man. I read many hours a day, and no other book has that appeal to me. Probably Shakespeare appeals to you, and if you take Shakespeare as your prophet, it's up to you.
Yeah. Lakum dinukum waliya din, right?
I have no problem with that. It's your Shakespeare is your prophet.
So why do you believe Muhammad's a prophet then? Because he comes up with all these stories that are circulating in the era, for example, Dul Qarnayn and all this, and then he's telling stories of Jesus, and then he's telling stories of Noah.
Samir,
what's so convincing? Why does this convince you? What's convincing about this?
Samir, are you married now?
Yes.
Do you love your wife?
Mm-hmm.
Can you prove it?
I can prove it by my acts of devotion that I've performed, the time that I spend on her. I mean, if I didn't do any of that, she would suspect I don't actually love her. Like if I didn't wake up in the morning.
Wives are always there to tell her, no, you don't love it. No, Samir, you're looking at that girl. It's always there. But what I'm saying, love is something which needs to be felt. It can never be proven otherwise. Probably you never did anything for your wife. Probably still she will love you. So it depends.
I don't know about that, but okay, let's say what you're saying. How do we distinguish between someone that really truly believes Hinduism is true, that Shiva or Vishnu is a creator?
Hindus.
This is a feeling, right? I mean, what's the proof?
There are Muslims among Hindus.
Sorry?
There are Muslims among Hindus.
There are Muslims among Hindus. How do you define that?
There are Hindus, for example, Brahma Samaj, who believe in oneness of Allah, oneness of God, that is, oneness of God, Prabhu. There are Hindus who believe in Sarvam Kalidam Brahma, one God, who do not associate any other, do not worship any idol, do not believe in multiple gods, do not believe in reincarnations. Hinduism is a religion which, when the British went there and in the British Parliament, they were talking about who is a Hindu. And it was said that Hinduism is a religion which despises the killing of a mouse but takes delight in human sacrifice, because there are people who even doesn't say don't hurt the mouse, but there are people who are doing human sacrifices. So you cannot really define who is a Hindu. So from cultural sense, I am a Hindu.
But I just meant from a truth claim, from a truth basis.
What do you call this? Biological sense. I come from that part of the world. You do as well. So.
But what I meant to say is, if you're saying this is something that has to be felt, shouldn't there be evidence for the truth claim of Islam? That is like, what's the evidence? Why should I be Muslim and not atheist? Let's say atheist. I forget Hindu, because Hindus are Muslims. You're saying some Hindus. Okay, what about atheists? Are atheists Muslims too?
Okay, there's nothing in the Quran, absolutely nothing in the Quran that says that atheists may not be forgiven, because the Quran says, as you read very earlier, very clearly, that first of all, that Quran is a hikmah, that means it's wisdom. Secondly, there is nothing in the Quran just said that atheists will go to hell. It says Allah will punish those who do not believe. And Surah 45 is especially dedicated for non-believers who are said do not believe in any gods. If you read Surah 2, Surah 45, you will see people are talking about looking at your universe, looking at everything, think, and you will come to a conclusion. It is in Islam, it is called al-insan al-hakim, most likely.
So why do I want to be Muslim? Why do you even bother with the whole Islam thing? Then I might as well just be atheist, live my life and die and go to heaven. What's the point of all of this nonsense, reading the Quran? Who cares?
I think we are coming to that atheist issue. The Quran says very clearly a person will be judged by his aql, wisdom. So if your wisdom, you tried your best, and if you could not find any reasons to believe in God, Allah will see your aql, will judge you by wisdom.
But then what's the point of Islam? I mean, why did Allah even bother with the whole thing?
Because it is for me. Islam is for me, not for Allah. Who told you Islam is for Allah? It's for you.
Okay, but what's the benefit? What's the point? If I don't need Islam to go to Jannah, what's the point of this whole, like, all the hoops you have to jump through and praying and fasting and
from your Islamic life what is Surah Fatiha?
Sorry?
You remember from your Islamic life what is Surah Fatiha?
Yeah, obviously. You have to read it 17 times a day.
Right. So if you read Surah Fatiha, it says, Ya kanabudu wa iya kanasta'in, doesn't it?
Yes.
So to Allah we seek the way. And it says also, Ya kanabudu ya kanasta'in, ihdinas siratal mustaqim. Right? Ihdinas siratal mustaqim. That means, what does it mean? That
means the straight path.
It's easy. It makes my life easy. But it doesn't say ahadul mustaqim. It doesn't say this is the only way. Quran never says this is the only way. Nowhere in the Quran. It says this is the easiest way. So
but it's not the easiest way.
It is the easiest way.
It's not.
It is.
I don't have to do anything now as an atheist. I don't have any obligations to any God. I don't have to bow down to any being.
Who told you I have to bow down every day 5 times?
So what defines you as a Muslim? Okay, what's the difference between you and me then?
Huh?
What's the difference between you and me?
I believe in oneness of Allah, oneness of God, one creator. You don't.
So you believe, so it's only what's in your mind, it's not your actions?
Actions, innamal amalu binniyat. It is clear hadith mutawatir that your niyat, your intention will be judged by Allah. You will be judged your action by your intention.
But why do we need to be judged by Allah? Why are we sinful? Why is there hell? What's the point of all of this?
It means a perfection scale, because Allah is limitlessly merciful. You try to be as merciful as you can be.
He's also shadidul iqab, mighty in punishment.
I mean, hang on. Punishment for what? Don't you get punishment for going against nature even now?
In what sense?
In every sense. If you go against nature, you get punished. For example, you close your nose and you die.
Okay.
So you have to be natural, because belief in God is natural. Because I will tell you to read the book Ibn Tufail's. I will tell your friends to Google that. Yeah. And this book single-handedly changed the whole understanding of reasoning in entire Western world. It is Ibn Tufail's Why Ibn Ikhdan. And in that book, reasoning, human reasoning, even if the baby is born and brought up like a feral child, you will still look for where he came from, and we will come to the conclusion of there is a creator, and that's all. And all these things, that rituals, these rituals are for us to be disciplined. If you can't do without it, it is called bakabillah fanafillah. Go for it.
Are you a perennialist? You believe all religions to be true?
All religions to be true.
Like, are you believe there's a greater truth that permeates through all religions, like a perennialism?
Yes, there is a greater truth in the sense that in all religions, they all try. They probably, some of them are so submerged into rituals. They don't really find, they're grasping, but they don't find the sense of how in going back to oneness of Allah. But the main purpose is the oneness of Creator. That's all.
So how do you find Muslims?
The rest are just morass.
Okay. Now I'm understanding your perspective a little bit more. How do other Muslims react to what you're saying? Because obviously it sounds very controversial.
When you are an ex-Muslim and well-known ex-Muslim, you get death threats like every hour. Then reforming and bringing them back to original Islam is difficult.
So, well, in this case, I actually support you because I like your Islam. It sounds a lot different than what I.
There's not a single hadith or even the Quran where it says you should kill the apostate.
Yeah.
Says as well. You cannot find any single one. So I'm telling you, this is the Islam that is the real Islam. This is the Islam of Prophet Muhammad's Islam. And
well, we don't know if it's the Islam of Prophet Muhammad's Islam because you just said we can't trust the hadith, right? So we don't know what.
The Quran telling your viewers here, Quran says repeatedly, it is complete, it is reliant, it is full, it doesn't need any other expression. There are several verses. If you give me time, I will even quote you all that. So this is all that. But if you take hadith which doesn't go against Quran, then you will see that what I'm saying is true.
Okay, so it's been a great conversation. I appreciate it very much. I think I wasn't expecting the approach that you took, and it was very interesting. If there's any questions, because
Sameer,
yes,
I love you, brother.
Sorry,
I love you, brother. I love you.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, thank you.
I'm inviting you to Islam.
But I don't need Islam. I'm going to go to paradise anyways.
Well, Allah knows. I don't know. I don't know about myself.
I just think the whole thing is so stupid. Like God created us. He made us with free will, supposedly. He gave us inclinations and a brain. And then he sent this book that we're supposed to follow. And if we don't follow it and we don't...
Follow and do what?
Submit to him. Submit to Muhammad, basically.
Submit to what? You are
submit to Muhammad.
No. There's nothing in the Quran that says you submit to Muhammad.
It says Ati'u Allah wa Ati'u Rasul wa ulil amri minkum. Obey Allah, obey the messenger. It says those who say Samitna wa ata'na, we hear and we obey. It is not for the believer when Allah and his messenger rule something that he has any say in the matter. I can find those ayahs for you.
I can tell you the ayah right now. Surah 33 goes 34, 35.
Yeah.
It says very clearly, Sameer, that you follow what the Prophet said in the Quran. If you follow the central message, even if you don't believe in him, Surah 2 verse 62, you still have a chance.
But why should we believe in the central message of a book that hasn't preserved what the prophet's life? I mean, you have a book that's...
is not first. No scholar in the real scholar will ever tell you knowing the life of Muhammad was mandatory first. There's not a single scholar in the world. Leading scholar will agree to that. They will say at the most, it is mustahab, that is suggestible. But it is never said they will not even say this is sunnah. They will not even.
Let me try one more thing on you, because to me this was a big personal problem. What do you think of the divorce laws in Islam? How a man can say talak to his wife, and then he has to wait 30 days, and he can say talak again, and then he has to wait, and he can make up with her, and then after the third time he says talak, he cannot marry her again until she goes and has sex, married another man and has sex with him, and then he divorces him, and then you can marry her. This is so stupid. Like, why do we need a rule like that in Islam? Like, what's the point of that?
Okay. There are talak in various ways. Talakul Hasan, talakul Vila, talakul Khula, talakul Ila, Zihar, Mubarak. There are several ways of talak in Islam. Talakul, what you are saying, the triple talak thing, and also you are talking about going the intervening thing, and all that. I'll tell you this. Talak also talakul tawfiq. You can, according to Muslim Family Ordinance, 1961, in say Bangladesh and Pakistan, which emancipated long time ago and went back to the real Islam, it says that first of all, if a woman is married, divorced, and then married again, and divorced, then married again, then divorced, it is called bidah. But now only what few months ago, India came to that situation where they can triple talaq is one talaq, and they were like 50 years behind. Probably.
So I'm not talking about triple talaq. I'm talking about the proper way of doing it according to the Quran.
I'll come to that. I'll come to that. So according to the proper way of Quran, the talaq thing can be done in talaq tawfeed. That means you can give the right to the wife to divorce you, and at the same time, husbands are instructed not to take it as a joke. Because what they were doing, they were divorcing and then taking them back, divorcing and then taking them back. So these are the things to stop them from doing that. This is the mandatory thing.
So why do they get the right to divorce just like that? Anyways, why not have a proper like look at modern divorce law. There's no country in the world today that says the man has the right to say talaq and his wife is divorced. It's so stupid.
Well, I think you are not up to date with the laws. First of all, in England, the law has been changed. The law says that there was a time when you have to go through all that clumsy procedure of going into divorce. Now it has been very made it easy. You do not even have to bargain on reasons for why you want to divorce. England has prospered into that. So to divorce, you do not need to give any reason. Why should you have to give a reason?
Yeah, but I'm saying that the modern divorce law in many cases has a waiting period of 1 year. So for example, in Canada,
no, you're wrong.
No, I'm 100% sure. You have to be separated for 1 year before you can divorce in Canada.
Not in England. No. In Northern Ireland, it is 2 years. In England, that has been abolished. So it is not there anymore.
Okay.
But nevertheless, I don't believe any reasons why should anyone be tied to any kind of legality from divorcing. If I don't, my friend, if you don't get along with any girl, any woman.
Okay, so what if you? Okay, so but this is such a silly way of doing it. The man gets to decide by saying a word. He might say it in anger. He might be in a bad mood or something. Like you said, he's playing games, divorcing, and
by anger, anything by anger, out of anger, you don't have to leave the divorce. Any action is not justifiable because that is if you are
that's your opinion, isn't it?
No. That's not my opinion. What I'm saying is, if any action that you did by any pressure, any external pressure. I will give you the name. Ammar ibn Yasir. If you Google it, you can find it. Ammar ibn Yasir, he, under oppression, he had to declare the name of allegiance to other gods because his father and his mother were killed right in front of his eyes. And he had to say he was not a Muslim to save his life. And the Prophet, then later on, he came to the Prophet and the Prophet said, what was in your heart? He said, I was under pressure. He said, under pressure, if you say something, it's okay.
Well, I would think under anger, what you said, you really meant.
External pressure, I'm telling you, pressure. So whenever somebody is under anger, he has to be some sort of situation which obviously blurred his judgment. So if he's blurred, he did it under some kind of blurred judgment, that cannot be sustained. It is not Quranic.
What's the point of having the woman have to marry another man, have sex with him, and then go back to?
I just told you that this is for the men to take divorce seriously.
But why? But that's so stupid. What if you actually wanted to divorce your wife for a good reason? Let's say, for example, she was a bad wife and you divorced her. Now, why do you need her to have sex with another man to marry her again? How is that? Why would I be punished for? Let's say she cheated on me or something and I divorced her, and then we agreed that I'm going to get back with her. Why does she have to have sex with another man? That's so stupid.
Among all the permissible things, the most hated is the divorce in Islam. And to say that, I'm telling you very clearly that one of the things about the scholars, I'm not even going to the scholars. What I'm trying to say is very simple logic, that talaq was being taken as a plaything. But if you say that talaq has to be under, say, he's being stupid, he's divorcing, then taking him back, what should stop him? So the same loophole, if you make it general, they'll be using the same loophole to abuse more than to be cautious about.
No, but it should be a joint decision to divorce, not just it shouldn't be a unilateral decision by the man.
It should be. I'd rather say it should be a unilateral decision.
Okay, but why is it that the man can say talaq and not the woman? Why can't the woman say talaq then? How is this fair?
Who told you that she cannot?
It says right here. It's the man who says right here. It says right here.
Terminology. I'm giving you the terminology. It is called talaqul tawfeed. if you read the Talaq al-Tawfiq, during the marriage time, the wife can secure a contract, because marriage is a contract in Islam. Marriage is not just a ritual thing; it's a contract.
Yes, of course, marriage is a contract. Yeah.
Contract. When you come to marriage, you can give a talaq. You can wife to say, "Give me talaq al-Tawfiq," and when you say talaq al-Tawfiq, the wife can divorce. Because in Islam, a marriage is something the husband protects the woman, and this is Islamic way. And if she has the right to, at the time of contract, to say, "Give me talaq al-Tawfiq," and she doesn't even have to give any reason for talaq al-Tawfiq. That's it. No problem solved.
Okay, well, I guess the Sunni version is much more.
Sameer, I told you, remember, I have to go somewhere, so another 15 minutes. Shall we say?
Okay, let's go to some last questions then, because I have a question for you. Does a soul exist, and why? From Kuku Wizard.
What is soul? Soul is a command of Allah. Does command exist?
The ruh, right?
It's a command of Allah. That you move where you move. You can really, what do you call it, examine it under a microscope.
No. And there's another question from Uday. I think he's Hindu. Idol worshipping Hindus are bound for severe torture in his Islam. He's asking you that. What about Hindus?
No, there's absolutely nothing in the Quran which says that you should punish a Hindu for idol worshiping. Absolutely not.
What about in hell? What about in hell? Doesn't the Quran say that those who worship idols will be in hell?
No, it says very clearly, associate. For example, if you make a statue of, say, Ibn Battuta or Jalal Rumi, there's nothing against Quran for that. But if you make idol for the purpose of worshipping, that's the punishment you'll get. Even I'll be punished for many things I did in my life. I asked for Allah's forgiveness. Allah forgive me. But yeah, I did many things for which I'll be punished, because I'm not righteous in the sense of Quran, as it says. And we're talking about Surah 2, verse 145. I'm not being righteous enough, my friend. So there are many things for which I may be punished. So even the Prophet, the Mutawatir Hadith, Prophet said that do not count your blessings, because if you keep on counting and relying on your blessings, probably even I will not be able to ask for Jannah, because Jannah is simply a mercy of Allah. So my friend Uday, if his ultimate purpose is oneness of God, and if he says that all this idol worshipping is not really necessary, he is in fact more Muslim than true liar.
What if he believes in multiple gods?
That's the only thing Islam doesn't accept, that you do not believe in multiple gods, because multiple god is against intellect as well. We'll have another discussion someday.
Okay, next question. Why don't you compile a book on hadith that does not go with the Quran? Someone's asking.
Okay. I'm doing it. I'm in fact doing it. I'm going to write. I'm in the process of writing hadith collections and also tafsir of Quran. I'm in the process of.
Okay, so I want to let you go now, because I think I've taken a lot of your time. I do appreciate. Do you want to share anything else with the audience? Any final words? Maybe share your Twitter or Facebook.
Learn Islam on Quran, basing on Quran, and then test the history. Go for genuine history. You will be surprised. All right. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Mufassil. Great conversation. I'm really glad we did this. And hopefully we'll have another conversation at some point.
Thank you, brother. You take care. Love to all your audience.
Thank you. Care. Bye.
How do you log out?